This story begins in a crowded, noisy mall. 8-year-old Lucas, a boy with autism, was shopping with his parents, Carolina and Danielle. For Lucas, the mall wasn't a place of fun and games. The bright lights, the loud music, the constant chatter. It was an overwhelming assault on his senses. Suddenly, it all became too much. The sounds merged into a single, unbearable roar. The lights seemed to burn into his eyes. Lucas felt a wave of panic wash over him. He dropped to the floor, covering his ears, and started to scream. His body trembled as he rocked back and forth, trying to block out the world. This was a sensory overload crisis, a common but terrifying experience for many on the autism spectrum. Carolina and Daniel rushed to his side, their hearts aching for their son. They knew what was happening, but knowing didn't make it any easier. "It's okay, Lucas," Carolina whispered, trying to shield him from the chaos. Daniel attempted to create a small, quiet space around him. But the mall was relentless. People started to gather, their faces a mixture of confusion and annoyance. Whispers cut through the air, sharp and judgmental. Can't they control their child? What a spoiled brat! Why would they even bring him here? Each comment felt like a physical blow to Carolina and Daniel. They felt 100 pairs of eyes on them, judging their parenting, judging their son. The shame and frustration were almost as overwhelming as Lucas's crises. They felt completely alone, isolated in a sea of misunderstanding. Just as their hope was beginning to fade, a figure approached them. He was a security guard, his uniform neat and his expression calm. Carolina's heart sank a little. She expected a reprimand. She braced herself for him to ask them to leave. But the guard didn't look angry or annoyed. Instead, his eyes were filled with a surprising gentleness and understanding. "Ik knelt down not too close to Lucas, respecting his space. My name is Marcos Ribeiro, Esai." Softly, his voice, a calm island in the storm of noise. "Is it the noise?" "The lights," he asked, speaking directly but gently to Carolina and Daniel. Carolina, taken aback by his kindness, could only nod, tears welling up in her eyes. Marcos gave them a small, reassuring smile. "I understand," he said. He then reached for his radio, but not to call for backup. He spoke into it quietly, his words calm and measured. A few moments later, another guard arrived, handing Marcos a small package. Marcos opened it, and inside were a pair of child-sized ear protectors. He held them out, not towards Lucas, but towards his parents. "My nephew is autistic," Marcos explained. "These help him a lot." Daniel took the ear protectors, his hands trembling slightly with relief. He gently placed them over Lucas's ears. The effect was almost immediate. The muffled silence was a balm to Lucas's overstimulated senses. His screams subsided into whimpers, and his frantic rocking began to slow. The tight knot of terror in his little body started to loosen. Marcos watched, his expression full of empathy. "There's a quiet room we use for stuff bricks," he said. "It's empty right now. You can stay there as long as you need. No one will bother you." He then stood up and addressed the lingering crowd. His voice was firm but polite. "Please, give the family some space. Everything is under control." The onlookers, perhaps shamed by his compassion, slowly began to disperse. Marcos then led the family away from the bustling main corridor. He walked them down a quiet hallway to a simple, peaceful room. Inside, there were just a few chairs and a small table. The lighting was soft and the air was still. It was a sanctuary. "Take all the time you need," Marcos said again before quietly closing the door, leaving them in peace. In the silence of the room, Lucas finally uncurled. He leaned against his mother, his breathing evening out. Carolina held him close, stroking his hair, her own tears now flowing freely. But these were not tears of frustration or shame. They were tears of profound gratitude. Daniel sat beside them, his hand on his son's back, looking at Carolina. No words were needed. They both felt the same overwhelming relief. In a world that so often felt hostile and judgmental, a stranger had shown them a world of kindness. Marcos didn't just see a problem to be managed. He saw a child in distress and a family in pain. He didn't offer judgment, he offered a solution. He didn't offer pity, he offered genuine empathy. His understanding came from his own experience with his nephew. He knew that what Lucas needed wasn't discipline, but compassion. He knew that what Carolina and Daniel needed wasn't criticism, but support. After about 20 minutes, Lucas was calm. He even managed a small smile for his parents. They felt ready to face the world again. When they left the quiet room, they found Marcos waiting nearby. Carolina walked up to him, her heart full. I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea what that meant to us." Daniel shook Marcus's hand firmly. "Thank you. Truly, you're a good man." Marcos just smiled warmly. "I was just doing my job," he sighed humbly, "and looking out for people is part of it. I'm glad I could help." He looked at Lucas, who was now calmly holding his mother's hand. "Take care, little guy," he said with a gentle wave. As the family walked away from the mall, the world seemed a little brighter. The memory of the judgmental stares began to fade. What remained was the powerful memory of one man's kindness. Marcos Ribeiro's simple act of empathy had done more than just end a crisis. It had restored a family's faith in humanity. It reminded them that they weren't alone in their journey. It showed them that understanding can be found in the most unexpected of places. A pair of ear protectors and a quiet room. Small things, really, but powered by empathy, they became monumental. They transformed a moment of public humiliation into a moment of private dignity. They turned a moment of crisis into a lesson in compassion. This story is a beautiful reminder for all of us. When we see someone struggling, let's try to choose understanding over judgment. A little bit of empathy can make an unimaginable difference. It can be a lifeline for someone who feels like they're drowning. It can be a light in the darkness. Let's all try to be a Marcos in someone's life. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that celebrates the good in the world. See you next time.